Hello. I hope you're all out there ready for some penny on the telly. Now, I'm just going to give you a little teaser of what's going to happen first of all. We've got some new material from me, and I'm sharing a lot of work from others, who many of you will know. Penny on the Telly is my new venture, and I hope it will grow and grow and dominate the world. It has to be done, particularly for disability arts. And let's not forget that we're celebrating UK Disability History Month. So I'm going to do some familiar work, and I'm going to do some brand new work. And I think that I just want to do a little teaser, because as some of you know, Liz Carr is going to do a monologue that we recorded last week. My monologue. I'm absolutely blown away with Liz's performance, so I can't wait to share that with you. But I think first we are moving now into, you're going to enjoy this, chapter 1. It's me reading some stuff. And what else could I start with but some old favourites that many of you know? And, I forgot already, see, not smooth enough yet. This is adult material. There will be some swearing, and I'm showing a marvellous film by Catherine Arianello, which has a little bit of nudity, nothing extreme. But one of the first poems I'm going to do has some swearing in. Yeah, you all know me. But first of all, let's go to an old favourite. And many of you have heard this at the many festivals and live performances I've done. This is Bus. On the bus, Boris bus, dirty, bumped, horrid bus. There's a trolley in the crib space, see the child, snotty-faced, bullish, buggy, hellish mummy, disposition far from sunny. On the bus, double-decker, smelly, shaky, bony wrecker. There's a suitcase in the crib space, nervous girl who grips in haste, snarling hoodie, chomping burger. Does he not know that meat is murder? On the bus, Boris bus, dirty, bumpy, horrid bus. Another journey, ramp is broken, access just an empty token. Public, selfish, my dismay, while driver grunts and looks away. On the bus, double-decker, smelly, bumpy, bony wrecker. In my slot, a man with doggy, by my shoulder, youth who's groggy, hair pits foul, hair is stinking, smells of vomit and binge drinking. On the bus, Boris bus, dirty, bumpy, horrid bus. There we were, such humble cripples, fought the system, sent out ripples, now to take a London bus, with the throng to push, to fuss. On the bus, Boris bus, dirty, bumpy, Tory bus, any bus, big or small, dirty, rough, crowded, empty, loud and surly, scarcely just a London bus. Not really much, still fucking used to us. Thank you. Yeah, I can hear you all going bus, bus, bus. Thank you so much. And as a way of linking into our first film, in a little moment or two, I'm going to do one of the... This is like a double whammy, people. This is my poem, Special. But before I read Special, I want to tell you about a little thing. I got invited to do a podcast recently, or a little contribution called Bin the Word. I wonder if you can guess what word I binned, but please look out there for that. If you just Google Bin the Word, you will find it, and I enjoyed doing it. But now, the poem. Brace yourselves, world, brace yourselves. Fucking special. Special need, special time, special breeds. Special case, special care, special race. Special knife, special spoon, special life. Special drink, special food, special stink. Special school, special bus, special rule. Fucking special. Special kid, special thumb, special flids, special bed, special chart, special meds, special arm, special leg, special charm, special nurse, special home, special curse. Special job, special step, special knob. Fucking special. Special play, special work, special pay, special shark, special loan, special mark, special dosh, special laws, special kosh, special ops, special pain, special cops, special crip, special time, special chip, fucking special, special punk, special hair, special spunk, special specs, special sight, special sex, special dress, special girls, special mess. Special gun, special boys, special one. Special friend, special death, special end. I am fucking special. Thank you. Now, another reason for doing that tonight, and I hope you're out there, Joe, my lovely Joe Cox will be watching. And I'm going to just introduce Joe's film shortly. But I want to talk about Joe because we do special. Joe plays the cello and the electric cello, and to see us working together on that is amazing. So just a little bit of audio description. The film is something Joe did as an improvised piece earlier in the year, and it's colourful. It's framed in a white frame, and it has writing along the bottom, and it's blues and pinks, and Joe's in the middle playing her cello. It's quite a moody atmosphere, and there's pops and flashes of colour. So here's Joe's beautiful piece entitled Autumn 2020. I do hope you enjoyed that. Jo is the most beautiful, talented player, creator. I get speechless about Jo because she's a beautiful human being as well, and often very underrated. So if you can contact her, find her website and her work, she deserves to be playing at the Royal Albert Hall to sell out audiences. She's a beautiful person, and I'm honoured to have been her friend and have worked with her for a long time. But moving on from Jo, who's been a great supporter of mine, I'm going to read some new material. Oh, I hope you're all cheering. New material, that's a big deal for me. Just 3 little pieces. Actually, they're all new. They're all new to the audience, I suppose. So, the first one is flash fiction. And I know some people find flash fiction easy to write and others don't. But if you are a newbie writer, play around with it. It's normally 500 words or less. It's quite a skill. I've won a few little competitions writing flash fiction. But it's a nice thing to try because it doesn't feel too daunting. There's other things that can be daunting, but not the word length. So this first little piece is called Water Fingers. The sunlight dances across the little pool as Anna moves her hand through it. She breathes in the brackish smells as the fierce sun makes her squint. A small crab scuttles from under a stone and makes her giggle. Its little claws wave as she teases it with her finger. She wonders if she can catch it for Daddy. He will laugh and tell her how clever she is. Then they will let it go into the sea. Because that's where it belongs, he will say. They will watch it escape together, her tiny hand folded into his, big and bony, covered in scars from his knives. She can see Daddy if she closes her eyes and lets the stealthy anger flow away into the sea. His words about belonging, about being only his. He didn't mean it. She knows he didn't. All those bad words and sometimes blood. And there was always chocolate on Fridays because she was a good girl, after all. Her fingers grow cold, and as she pulls them out of the water, the sun goes in. She looks at her own scars along her knuckles, rubbing them, moving slowly, knees stiff with old age. She braces herself to get up. Part of her wants to stay, looking for little crabs and waiting for praise from Daddy, who left her by the water 1,000,000 years ago. To tell him he is forgiven. The next piece is called Grace Shall Not Step. And some of these pieces, this is actually, I did it for a poetry competition where it had to be Gothic. And I thought, what's better than Gothic than an invalid? We know, don't we, people? It's still a little bit of a work in progress, but I'm happy to share it with you. Hear the howling wind and the wolves howling and the scratches on the window. That's the scene we're setting now. It's called Grace Shall Not Step, or An Invalid's True Desire. Grace shall not step upon the stair, but with her cat watch by the cobwebbed door. Her gaze falls low across the midnight air as tears lie crystal on the stony floor. Grace aches in wretched petticoats of grey, consigned within the plushest wheeling chair. Yet her labels scream no invalid's dismay, nor does she know her fate, nor much care, as father hides her in his freezing rooms. His pearls and petals dandle on her form, yet petted daughter with her cat defies, in wheeling through the wildwood's eldritch gloom. Curse every god to send us down a storm, to break these bonds of boredom, young Grace cries. A gallant groom walks through the shuttered door, and with much haste the lady's maid steps light. Grace blinks to see and holds the black cat's paw, hears their sighs of love through her lonely night. Her hands fold restless on her silken lap. She aches alone with none she can hold dear. She has no answer, and there is no map, the way unfettered, her future unclear. There is no Cupid nor a handsome beau to step with her and taste the freshest days and pick the fruit that falls on fallow leaves. The raven does not speak as cold winds blow, and nightly Grace weeps in soft malaise at secret lovers wrapped within their ease. Comes a stranger, bold as strangers be, fast through the woods high on a faithful mare, his dancing eyes and easy words carefree. Grace drops her pearls, her revelry of hair which sparkles red besides the darkling fire, sings a siren song, maids in their bower. The cat beholds the man close to admire, wondering why her mistress now should flower. He lifts the lace, the cords of spinster lost. I love you in your wheeling chair, he sighs. I'll sweep the cobwebs from the musty door. I'll take you full and fast and melt the virgin frost. No tragedy shall you present to me, for in my heart I name you paramour. Her mouth a pout of crimson maiden thirst. She flies with him where woodbine covets trees, where hemlock towers in waiting for the cursed, where once Grace the cripple could not flee. They play amid the meadow's haunted graves. Her father's wrath at handsome strangers' spells will not deny her pleasure now it craves new hunger on her flesh, where new love dwells. And in the eider bed such joy impart. Her darling claims her his. Now love is home. Then father sees the truth to bless his daughter rare, rejoices in her woman's shining heart. With bow, with cat in woods, Grace freely roams, and never more shall frown upon that stair. Thank you. I hope you're all enjoying these new pieces. Finally, something I'm so proud of because it's only just been published. There's a wonderful magazine called Miss Lexia, and I'm very fortunate to have a piece in the current edition. It's winter 2020 edition, and I should say hello, Miss Lexia. I haven't had my subscriber's copy yet, otherwise I would have held it up and showed it off all evening. But this piece, I'm not going to tell you anything about it because some of you will guess as I read it. It's in a slot in the magazine called The World's Wife, and it's called Mrs. J. Merrick. First there's Daisy, who did nursing. Mr. Treves at the London hospital, he got girls in to wash the Elephant Man. Then there's Nancy, a bit of a peculiar one, a fancy freak and an invalid in this bath chair pulled by a wolf. My cousin Lisbeth's her maid. Daisy said, well, when you're used to Mr. Merrick and his strange face, he's a kindly gent. Got curious, didn't I? Nancy says, meet Joseph Merrick with me. I was scared, I admit. Took some gin before it. But the truth is, I don't see good. This Nancy, who has a kind heart, said she'd get me some spectacles, but I don't want charity. So when I met Mr. Joseph, I couldn't see no monster. And after I got accustomed to his speaking, our chat ran on. We was in the gardens near to his room on the ground floor. I didn't notice when Nance left us. We talked about the workhouse, seeing as we're both familiar with that hell. He was concerned no vulgar ruffians had tried to ruin a pretty maid. Made me smile, and I had to wonder if he was truly seeing me, because my best features is my hands. Well, me old dad says so, fit for piano playing. Couldn't help me nosiness. Joseph's body, all lumps and bumps everywhere. I wanted to touch him once my nerves faded. When I left, his fine normal hand took mine to kiss, lifting it to his strange mouth. It made me shiver, not all in shock. I was fascinated. Nancy and her wolf took me back again and again. We had tea with Joseph, and he told me his tales, the good and the bad. How Belgium was frightful and cold, and then Mr. Treves saving him. Like most medical men, I thought the surgeon too snooty. Made Daisy cry once. And when Joseph stood up to him in front of her, saying he was unkind, I knew I loved Joseph Merrick. Later that week, and Nancy had an hand in it, he asked me to wed. I flew into such an happy passion. Nancy calmed me, said there were hard truths to face. Me family wouldn't like it. They don't like us that's different in these situations. They can't see beyond it. But she herself was delighted and urged me not to wait. I knew from Daisy that Joseph's gentleman would rise as expected, but it was Nancy I asked a question I could ask no other. My cheeks burning. I'd always wanted children and couldn't see why not. If my Joseph could be the father. I believe Mr. Treves noted that Joseph's particulars are perfect. She smiled. You'll find a way between you. It always happens. We married in spring. I got took on as a nurse close to him while we made plans for our future in the world, me eyes not mattering any more than Joseph's shape. I say long prayers each night, especially as now I'm with his child. Thank you, everybody. And we're going to cue chapter 2. So this I'm going to stick to quite briefly in the intro, because what can we say about the work of Catherine Arianello? Extraordinary, naughty, filthy, hilarious. And I cannot believe that she is no longer with us. Now, this does have some adult material, what you're going to see. And another reason this has come up, and I wanted to do this one here, I should say, is that I was fortunate enough to be the narrator, made with Catherine's really hands-on style, with Erin Williamson as part of the Disability Avant-Garde Collective. And I just want to explain and do a little bit of audio description that the film takes place in a number of settings, and indoors and outdoors. I believe that the narration is well suited for audio description. It's a real send-up of certain things many disabled people will be familiar with, and I don't want to say any more while we're about to run the film, but please enjoy this piece and be aware this is something very different, hilariously unique. Aaron and Catherine are two very special people, and together they make amazing art. Aaron is profoundly deaf, and Catherine is confined to a wheelchair. Despite their severe handicaps, these two courageous people have formed a strong bond while taking art therapy classes over the years. Aaron is unable to hear a pin drop, but this doesn't stop him. Here we see him with an ingenious invention that helps him to draw beautiful pictures. Sadly, when Aaron was only 14 years of age, he was afflicted with a terrible condition called sensorial deafness, which cruelly took away all of his hearing and made him permanently deaf. Despite this tragic loss, Aaron has been attending the art therapy classes, and this has helped Aaron to build his confidence under such tragic circumstances.
Can't get off the board.
Here we see them in their life drawing classes, and despite Catherine having no movement, she still perseveres and is making a lot of progress. When Catherine was first born, everyone thought she was normal until she showed no signs of crawling. After a few months, she was diagnosed with a fatal crippling disease called spinal muscular atrophy. As the years have progressed, Catherine's condition has deteriorated. However, she finds her strength in the art therapy classes she attends each week. Aaron and Catherine first started making great art together in their early 20s, and to this day they continue to make amazing art. They are very excited because they get to run a charity stall at the Brick Lane Art Car Boot Fair and at Watch This Space at the National Theatre. This is an incredible achievement, and they are so happy and are actively participating in everything they do. This has inspired them to come up with some exciting new additions to their work. Catherine and Aaron are aware of the health risks with smoking, but decided that a limited edition set of ashtrays would be a popular addition to the stall, since lots of artists still smoke fags. Besides, they were comparatively easy to make. The jam was the trickiest thing to make for the stall, but in the end they decided just to use ready-made jam from Tesco. Catherine had heard that ready-made is a very arty concept associated with Marcel Duchamp, so it all fitted perfectly, as there would be a lot of arty people coming to the fair. Nowadays, modern artists don't always manufacture their own art, even if they do have the idea for it. Aaron and Catherine want to keep up to date, and when they attended the embroidery class, they realised that they didn't have the skills or patience to do much in that area. However, they managed to raise a little money through charity to pay some assistants to realise their embroidery concepts. For example, stitching the initials DAG onto handkerchiefs. Lucy is Catherine's special companion, and Catherine and her little canine friend are inseparable. Lucy plays a prominent role on the stall, and Catherine and Aaron soon realise that she attracts the crowds, and by allowing the public to pet her, this will encourage people to give generously. Over the years, it has been very challenging for them, as they have faced many difficulties due to their severe disabilities. Making art has not been easy, yet this doesn't stop them, and they don't focus on what they can't do, but rather focus on what they can do. With a large pencil strapped to the wheelchair, they can create the most wonderfully delicate drawings that are a joy to look at. And in addition, by strapping on a large pencil to a specially designed headpiece, Aaron is now able to draw incredibly intricate drawings. The art therapy classes give them a deep pride and satisfaction in what they have worked on, and there are no limits. Catherine says that she is jolly and gay, and from this documentary we can see that she is making the most of her life. Aaron says he loves art, and he also likes writing short, saucy stories, which gives him a little bit of cash towards his art therapy classes. People like Aaron and Catherine are an inspiration to us all, and this short portrayal of their lives demonstrates how, despite their tragic circumstances, they manage to make amazing art. I hope you like that. I wonder what some of you made of it. And I do hope that your irony key switch was turned to full. I'm going to read two pieces before we move to chapter 3. One is quite warm and soft, and the other one's harsh. But it's about friendship being the lifeblood that I've had for all my years. And the first one, I will just give you a warning, contains some offensive language in the context of the piece. It is a work in progress, but I'm happy with it. Pretty much, it needs polishing. And this is called Best Friends on Ward 4. 12 years old, my best friend's hair is black. Mine's brown. She combs and weaves in bands of white, then paints my nails bright red, a thing I love. Nurses shout, we scream, they're always a pain. Jen and me chat on the ward, truest best friends. Ugh. Time for cold slop, hospital food we hate. Too soon again, it's Monday morning, hate for sharp needles, out for blood. Doctor's black tie leans closer as he says, first your friend. Jen's eyes nervous to his coat, dirty white. My turn, a skinny arm stretched hard in pain. Soon done and salved with sweets we share and love. We dance as we can. Soul music blasts with love, listing pop stars and sneering those we hate. A nurse tuts, spits a word. Jen jumps in pain. My bestest friend is Jen and she is black. I'm almost 12, confused, and I am white. The grown-ups say, you two, no more games. Nan brings a camera, so there will be happy games. Jen is my model. She throws a pose I love, hands on her hips, head turned high, a white bag on her hand. Then a list, more staff we hate, and the nurse who spat. That girl is black. I stab her name to cancel out Jen's pain. I don't understand these adults teaching pain. But Mum brings back the prints. Dad seethes. What's this game? This girl with that hair? God, a girl who's black. I freeze. Tears silent for Jen, greatest friend I love. He punches me, glares out his usual hate. I cry in the quiet, his knuckles close, too white. Awake to hidden colour, blacks and whites, my mind vengeful to random words of pain, adults hacking out deep dividing hates. Jen, me, blood sworn, no mood for adults' games. And cling together, draw friendship's heart of love. Refuse that cut-out world of white and black. Poor little white girl shocked from girlish games. Abrupt grown-up, our pain and punched for love. Their hate is theirs. I love my Jen, who's black. I did spend a lot of my childhood in hospital. And having those friendships was so important to me. And this is another one from my book, Come Home Alive, available everywhere. Support your local independent bookshop. Order it, yes, by the amazing Burning Eye. Never knowingly mainstream. That's me. So this piece is called Linda. I learned the truth behind the screen on the ward, age 14, from Linda, who was 17. She was the greatest girl I'd seen, in bomber jacket, white and green. On her thin legs, the skinny jeans. Linda in her velveteens. On Linda, who was 17, wrist splints sparkled with a gleam, sovereign of her fashion scene. Fornication. On the TV screen, I asked her, what did it mean? Linda, who was 17, she laughed until the credits streamed. She taught me stuff they called obscene. She had a boyfriend, he was keen, Linda's sexy teenage dream. Oh, Linda, who was 17, she sucked bananas like a queen, dirty, dangerous and unclean. She gave me hope. Belief, esteem, subverted all their old regimes. Linda, who was 17, when adolescence made me scream, on that cusp and in between. I know some of you have heard that before. And some of you may have known the real Linda. So, excuse me while I fumble with my schedule here. I think, where are we now? We're about to go to chapter 3. I think we can say chapter 3. Yes, here we go. And now we're moving on to protest. I want to talk to you a little bit about UK Disability History Month. Come on, quick comrades, come on. I hope you're all cheering out there. It's been around for a little while. I promise you I did do a little bit of homework. But the stuff I found was rather stodgy, so I might not inflict it upon you. Sorry you guys out there. But it's been around since, I think it's formally since 2009 or 2010. And it is to focus on a specific time in the year when our issues can be raised, and we also have a focus to help us, I found a good bit. I can read it to you now. Yeah. The key purpose of the month will be to raise awareness of the unequal position of disabled people in society, to advocate disability equality, to develop an understanding of the historical roots of this equality, to highlight the significance of disabled people's struggles for equality and inclusion, and the social model of disability. I think that's enough of the reading. But what I will say, it's true, and it's a really good excuse to have a nice event, and I would encourage more people to do that and have a nice party or bash. In fact, if you want to hear a little bit more of me again, I'm doing a live slot for the Together 2012. Lovely folks there. I'll be doing a little slot live on Thursday. Do look them up. But the reason I wanted to do a little bit about UK Disability History Month is because we're going to look briefly at activism, and I kind of come late to it in some ways. Just found my place. Partly when we had the DAN organisation, Disabled People, Disabled, God, I can't even think, Action Network, and I was really poorly. I was like poorly for the whole of the 1990s. But then, you know, this was it. David Cameron gave me a great opportunity, as the Tories did for us all, to protest. And at least we had the internet. Didn't have that back in the days of the dinosaurs. So I really got involved, and I'm going to not only show you a film I made, I will read over a very brief piece that I wrote around that time, which sums up how it felt. Oh, I'm just going to rip this out my folder. It's Penny on the Telly. Access! So, bearing with me, this piece is from the... I'll give you a little bit of audio description. The film features a lot of action from all kinds of disabled people. Yeah, there's loads of us. There's different bits of footage, disabled people of all backgrounds, all impairment groups, protesting and taking to the street in numbers never seen before at the hardest hit march in central London. Prologue, July 19th, 2014. With a PA helping, I hold a large placard and chant. There's a decent bunch of us, disabled people, spilling into the road outside the headquarters of the Department of Work and Pensions, Caxton House, central London. It's grey, but thankfully not cold. Jay is yelling, "Save ILF! Save ILF!" We're asking Mike Penning, the latest Dreary Minister for Disabled People, to meet us. And as usual, we are not allowed in the front door to present him a letter. There's one policeman. He looks bemused. As the crowd of disabled protesters swell, more and more, we make some noise. Arabic horns, endless whistles, drums, kazoos. Security staff for the DWP close the front entrance and place a barrier in front of us. It's the main entrance and exit for the building. So some of us line up and block it. Jay and a bunch of other power chair users lead a secondary line to get behind the building. I follow, excited. We discover there's a side entrance and we zip to it. If we can't get in, then no one is going to get out. Thank you for that. Look, I've ripped my paper. I'm sure many of you remember that. Yeah, that was quite a strange one, really. And I want to do a couple more readings, if I can just Sort my material out. Where's my book? I know, it's interesting that we were protesting about saving the Independent Living Fund, which I'm sure many of you remember joining in, and we didn't save it, and actually now we're still saving, trying to save ourselves from slipping back, keep fighting. But because it's politics, and we're now in this mad scenario, I haven't mentioned the C word, have I? I do have my mask lurking. But I have to read you a work in progress about our inglorious leader. So, thinking that my light as an activist will never burn, it will never burn out. And I wrote this as a draft fairly recently. I met BJ in 2012. I met BJ 2012 in the new Royal Park. The press at his arse to sniff and to bark. He bounced up and down such jolly old larks. That hair stood on end and he's quite a big brute. A tailor's despair in his dishevelled suit. I stopped spouting words and followed his route. The PR delight, superhumans galore, Paralympians on show we can coo and adore. An afternoon's work to a script, nothing more. I'm spitting out questions of lost rights and steps. How can we, the disabled, find hope in this mess? Will he turn now and face me, make some redress? His back was a wall and he would not turn round. I charged the muscle-bound bouncer who made not a sound, an invisible woman with ease to confound. Back then, clown mayor, now head of the board, the blustering bellend neoliberals high lord, lizard who I wish I could bring fast to the sword in pieces. But reptiles are great, the metaphor's wrong. These out-of-touch humans stuck on privileged songs. In the wealth gaps expanding, they throw us headlong into new normal bedlam as ministers laugh, as COVID comes sneering and screws up each graft. Fake news, the leader, the bosses aghast at stupid science and all those too clever. Now ministers own and dictate the weather, the rules for the rich, the elitist endeavour. Conspiracies spread like spores in a gale, while we spin in a horror of tried hard and failed, and BJ screams bratty, the UK's for sale. There you go. So that will actually get a little longer when the time comes, because I always like to end on an optimistic note. I know it's difficult, but, you know, you have to. And, you know, I've completely lost my partner. I'm leading into the film by Liz, I believe, am I not? And it is quite amazing, this film. And I was going to read something from my memoir, but I've decided maybe not. Maybe we'll see. So we now move to chapter 4. And as I say, I'm not going to... As I say, I'm not going to... a little bit of protest appearing there. As I say, I'm not going to say much about the next film. I'm very proud to have written this monologue. And I'm very proud that Liz agreed to take on this role. And just to set the scene for you, she's Nicola. She's in a care home, 1979, dressed in a plain dark cardigan, sat against a plain wall. She toys with a dead plant. Throughout the piece, looking at a letter. This is Letter to Paul.
Chlorophytum camosum. Todd told me that. Latin for the stupid old spider plant. He was funny that first month. February 1979. Sort of lost in himself, and poor me. Poor little me with my poor broken back. Boo-hoo. The hardest part is learning the rules. The thing is, as old timers, we get used to them over the years, and I've been here since I was 17. Funny to think about it, really. 18 years. And they come and they go, and some of them die. I mean, we die, and the staff don't like to talk about it. Linda, I used to share a room with her. She said they've killed people. I mean, it's easy to let someone slip into the bath when they can't hold themselves up. Anyhow, the broken backs. Oh yeah. Well, they come into this cult as adults, all shocked that the world out there doesn't want them damaged. And there's the staff to get used to, the creeps. Men and women who try and touch you up. The care nurses who tell you that you stink. The matron who makes us go to bed at 9 p.m. because the staff want to doss off early. The care nurses who won't help you to the toilet, not in time. Then when you have an accident, she hits you, screams you're dirty and lazy, and now you will sit in your filthy shit all night. I looked after Todd, I did, and he's dishy. Dark eyes and lots of hair. He plays the guitar a bit, although we're not really allowed to have it in here. Wanted to be one of those punks, and that makes me laugh. But I like him to talk about that stuff. Anyway, I never really thought things would develop, you know? I feel like a silly teenager. I don't know anything. I've never done anything, not this stuff, not sex, not love. This though, this means change, the kind of change that I want to be part of. Todd, he sings to me sometimes, punk songs about freedom and revolution. And a handicap man got into the Guardian newspaper. He did, Paul Hunt, and it's the revolution. I mean, it is, I can feel it, a proper revolution for disabled people. Linda, she's in the next room to me now. Her sister gave her the newspaper clipping to her because it had the word handicapped in it. She thought that she liked it. Oh, we had a good laugh about that. Who cares? I copied down every word and I want to look at it every other minute. I want to write to Paul Hunt and tell him. It's toilet time. I know normal people don't have to do this, and I bet Paul Hunt doesn't. Every single day for 22 years. It doesn't even matter if you need the toilet. It doesn't matter if you just want to help to do stuff when you want. That was one of the hardest things for Todd. No choices, not even to have a wee, or get changed, or check your catheter. It's when the screws tell you. when Todd got over his whining, well, we all went into the day room with some beer that Linda's sister had snuck in. He had a laugh, telling Todd the secret lingo we have. Stuff that helps us get by, you know. The home is Colditz. After that prison in the war, the staff are screws like they have in any prison. Linda started that after we had a particularly nasty care worker in charge, Mrs. Bacon. She was like, line up everybody at 8 a.m, hair brushed, nails scrubbed, smelling fresh. Stupid cow. She smelled of booze. And anyway, there were never enough care workers to do something like that. I can't brush my hair on my own. Screws ordered me to cut it off, but I won't, especially now. More than anything, I'd love to sleep with Todd. I don't mean, you know, to do stuff. Not yet anyway, but just to get snuggled in. I'd never get cold again. I tried. I thought, even if I could stay here with him, his arms around me and telling me amazing things, going on holiday with him. Spain, he says, where it's warm all the time and the food is lovely. I now know what manchego cheese is. I sat in his room, and between us, we tried to push something across the door so that they couldn't get in, but they did. Of course they did. And I know I looked guilty even when we'd done nothing. They always do that. They like us that way. Guilty for even being alive. Severely physically handicapped, many of whom find themselves in isolated and unsuitable institutions where their views are ignored. We don't have views. You can't even choose the time to sit on the bog. Me and Todd, we're getting views together. It's funny, but he calls me strong. His strong bird. I laugh and I have to tease him about that. I mean, I read about burning your bra and women's liberation. I don't know if they'd like a word like that, but I do. No one's ever said anything like that to me before. Todd's all roused up by Paul's letter too. He says, there must be better ways to live for the disabled, and we know what we want, and we should have a say in some of the things, even around here. I want to sleep in his bed. I want to touch his skin until his eyes close. Hear him make that, you know, that funny happy noise. I want his hands on me. And we want the door, all the doors closed. Our space, our room, our home. And I'd like a cat curling up at my feet every night. Todd wants a dog. And I like it when we argue because we laugh at the same time, and it seems like there's a future for us somehow. I'm going to write to Paul. I want to join in, and Todd, Paul will help. He will. He understands. Look, their views are ignored, and they are subject to authoritarian and often cruel regimes. Cruel regimes. Mrs. Bacon specialised in that. I was punished like a kid for trying to stay with Todd. There was the official punishment, and then there was the other. They don't write about that in the stupid notes. I was made to go to bed at 8 p.m. And then one night, when the others were all put to bed, she came into my room, made sure the door was locked, all right. And she sort of smacked my head, and my eyes went funny. And I remember her screaming, no, shrieking, disgusting, she said. You're ungrateful, she said, an ugly bitch. And ideas about Todd were childish. said. And then she pulled her bedclothes back. Nobody knows about that stuff. You can't tell anyone. There is no one. I told Todd eventually. His face went red, tight, like something was going to burst out of him. He felt bad because he wasn't punished. I mean, only the official version. Because his dad visited every Sunday and took Todd out. So he would have seen if there were new marks on him. I am proposing a consumer group. The views of actual and potential residents of these successors to the workhouse. We hope in particular to formulate and publicise plans for alternative kinds of care. I'm writing to Paul tonight. I should have some paper left if no one's nicked it. Nice pale blue paper. Mum sent it to me when she had to cancel her last visit. I know what alternative kind of care I want to start with. One where me and Todd can be together, where we can do what we want, even get married, because I know he wants to. And there will be that cat and the dog and roses, hyacinths when it's spring, like Nan always has. I'll write to Paul till he replies. I'll tell him that we want to be together, me and Todd. And I might even tell him that I'm not having any bloody chlorophotum chemosum, not anywhere near where we live.
Hello everyone. I hope you enjoyed Liz in that role, Nicola in Letter to Paul. I'd really love to hear your views on that. It's not a complete project, but I am proud of that monologue. Particularly to do it this month was amazing. So deepest love and thanks to Liz for recording that for me last week. Now I realise I've been a bit lax. I haven't done any audio description on the place I'm in. So I'm in a beautiful little old cinema with a lush, plush red curtain behind me. And it is in St Leonards-on-Sea where I live. And there's a large screen telly behind me that has my mug on it with my bright punky hair on this TV screen, and it actually has a graphic saying Penny on the telly. But I thought that was important to describe now because we're in chapter 5 and I'm going to introduce to you my friend, my neighbour, the rather marvellous Jake Arnott.
Hi,
Hello,
Penny.
Jake.
Good to see you.
Thank you for coming along and interviewing me.
It's lovely to be here.
Or I might interview a bit of you as well.
I thought it'd be an in conversation.
Yeah.
That sounds good, doesn't it?
I think that's good.
But I do want to ask you something to start with.
Good.
And it's always interests me as a writer. When did you first think about writing? What was it? Something you did as a child? What made you a writer?
Oh, that's like a favourite question, isn't it? Because on the one hand, it sounds like a Hollywood movie when you say, yeah, started really young, and on the other hand, you could make it mystical. Because I do believe it was what I was meant to do. I fell in love with words early on. Mm-hmm. I just fell in love with them. I think there's a little bit of the irony, well, to the non-disabled world anyway, that because I was ill as a child, I was ill rather than disabled, but I did find myself on my own. I had times when I couldn't ride my bike, and I just found words were magic. Uh-huh. And I truly believe that. So I would The one thing I remember was about 8 years old, I was told how to bind a book. Like very basically, I remember it. It had cheap wallpaper on the front cover and bits of string. And I was invited to write an alphabet poem, A for Apple, very Edward Lear. And that was it. And then when I was about 9 or 10, I won a prize. What can you do? That's it, isn't it?
Yeah, you're damned for life.
You are damned, yeah.
But who were the writers you connected to when you were growing up? Who did you identify with in terms of characters and stories?
I didn't I have got a poem called Bookworm, which highlights a lot of these. What I did, I didn't realise it, but I knew there wasn't a lot of people that were like me in books, who were good, who were bad, who were naughty one day and well-behaved the next, and disabled. There wasn't any.
Right.
There were these awful, ghastly characters that were not real, like Clara and Heidi, who I hated, and Colin with his bloody bad back in Secret Garden. And you saw a lot of these, like Clara, she's cured.
Right.
She's cured. And so's Colin. It's like, you know, very, very Edwardian stereotypes in a way. But I actually really liked Enid Blyton. I know it's not very trendy, but it was all the running about, the adventures.
Yeah.
I wanted to be a spy and be the tomboy and, you know, go in a boat and charge up the mountain and ride a horse, which I did, by the way. I rode horses for a couple of years.
Right.
Lovely. So that was it. I didn't really, at that point, I did start to read voraciously around the age of 11, I think, in particular, and then it was give me more, give me more, give me more.
Now, you mentioned your wonderful memoir earlier,
Yeah.
First in the World Somewhere, and I was looking at it again, and one of the things that comes out very strongly, particularly because we're about the same generation, is punk.
Yeah.
You're very much, I thought that was a really big thing for you. I mean, it certainly was, I mean, it's something we share.
Yeah.
How did that connect with your identity as a disabled person?
Well, I hope you're all busy ordering your copy for Christmas from good independent bookshops or anywhere. I do talk about punk, and I was a bedroom punk. In those days, you couldn't go out if you're a wheelchair user. It's just... And I lived in the sticks in Buckinghamshire. And punk came to me through my brother. I don't know if you're watching, Ant, my baby brother in Canada, but hopefully soon. I would have like a, what do you call it, a sort of vicarious experience through the gigs he went to. I did see the infamous, and it's in the memoir, Bill Grundy episode, and I just absolutely had the most humongous girl crush on Susie Sue, because I just thought, how can she look like that? It's majestic. Let me be her now. It was the breaking down of rules. So it didn't matter that I wasn't a certain way. That really spurred me on. And you were allowed to be angry. So some of my first successes as a writer were for fanzines.
Well, of course, famously, the letter to Jamming magazine, which I actually remember. Jamming was a magazine that came out, it's sort of post-punk, really.
Yeah.
And it was that kind of diversity, rock against racism. And because it pitched this idea of breaking down barriers,
yeah.
you wrote a letter. And I remember it because it did actually cause a stir. Because you were saying, of course, if you're breaking down barriers, this is the really big barrier.
Yeah.
And this is one of the things you said earlier about coming late to the movement, and maybe you did in terms of the later disabled...
the streets. Yeah.
But that letter was, what, early to mid-80s?
80, yeah. But there was, I mean, I suppose I wasn't part of Dan on the Streets, which was
Right.
early 90s, because I was just being in hospital a lot and other things. But I was definitely there in the earliest phases of disability art, and somehow it came together.
Yeah.
I think that punk influenced the early disability art scene because we just thought, fuck it, let's do it ourselves.
And
You
I
know.
suppose it's that sense, some of the notions around body image was much more liberated idea about how people were supposed to look.
Yes. Yeah, there was a lot of that. So I could, much to my mum's despair, I dressed much more in black. My hair, I'm surprised I've still got any, to be honest, because it was backcombed to pieces and spiked, and I used to like wearing, bondage dresses and
Well, of course, bondage trousers themselves actually had this disabling effect.
Yeah, I know, it's funny, isn't it?
I actually had a friend, we couldn't really afford them because they were too expensive, so we often had homemade ones, but because we were being chased by normal people so often, he had ones with poppers instead of D-rings, so he could take the belt off and actually run.
That's a great story, Jack. I tried to have a hobble skirt, which was a punk thing, similar.
Yeah.
And I could walk a little bit then, but then it's like I'm adding another barrier, and you could sort of shuffle like a penguin. But it was all fun. And I even, once I'd moved to London in '85, I was right into the sort of fashion side of the New Romantics, because I wanted to be free to dress however I felt like. And I'd miss that public display.
Yeah.
So that was great. And I hope I bring that out in the memoir as well.
It's certainly there in the memoir. Some great pictures as well.
The little pictures of me with multicoloured hair extensions. Yeah.
Now, it is, as you say, it is Disability History Month.
It is.
And it is a time to look back, but it's also a time to think about what's happening now. How do you feel in terms of, it's been a long time you've been involved with these things. How do you think things are now in terms of the rights movement and the disability art scene?
I think it's thriving in some ways, but I still think that, and I'll always bring it back to my work, Jake, when we need more literature.
We certainly, I think,
And I think is what suffers the most. I mean, if my only major way of getting more work recognised is to try and get things through the Beeb, I'm a fiction writer, I'm a novelist, as you know.
Yeah.
And I do have my novel out to many publishers at the moment. But
can you tell us about that?
no, I can't. I can tell you that the main character, I gave a little sneak preview in my thing for Dyslexia. She is Nancy Jones.
Right.
That is it. She's the lead character in my novel, a disabled woman. And that's all I'm going to say.
Well, that's something to look forward to. So that's the next big thing, essentially.
Fingers crossed, if some publisher, come on, look at me, publishers. I'm selling. Oh dear, it's like I just all that having to sort of pimp yourself out, but at least I can be a peacock.
Yeah.
So,
I think we've got a chance for a question from the
viewers.
Yes, from the viewers.
Ooh.
Yeah, we've got one here. This is I've had this by the magic of text.
Absolutely.
And this is from Dennis Queen, and this is a great question. As a performer, how do you get your buzz going while working this way over the internet? I'm finding it difficult myself, like a kind of separation anxiety. Much of my buzz comes from the audience. When I pre-record, I come across a bit flat. So how do you get
Dennis, my lovely, great question. It is different, I admit, but I feel that for this, if you can do it safely, have your bubble. I've got my PA here, and we're all sort of socially distanced, but there's a few people here, and I think having other human beings in any context will help you. Also, make it so people are watching you. That helps me. But I will say that Penny on the Telly is an experiment. That's the whole point. And it is different. But, you know, I love you to bits. And thank you, Dennis, for that question.
And I think that's...
We're winding
I
up,
think
aren't we
we're
now?
winding up. Not winding me up.
No, good. Thank you, Jake.
Quite the
I
opposite.
just wanted, can I just ask a question really quickly? Or we're running out of time. Just how it is and how long you are such a great ally of disability rights movement.
Well, it's
When did it begin?
Well, it's a long story. I was a long time involved in a very, very ill-conceived project, a theatre project where it had deaf actors and non-deaf actors, but the power was all wrong. And so it was essentially the hearing people were still in power. And then I later on I worked as a care worker in quite an enlightened centre in Yorkshire. And we saw ourselves as allies to the disability rights movement. So support workers. But again, the important thing is for non-disabled people to be in that role. Make sure they're not the people, because so often people, even now, will say to people, if you work with disabled people, oh, it must be very rewarding. And you usually say, no, it's not very well paid at all.
No.
And actually the important thing is not to have that kind of patronising, we're helping here. I've been very privileged. I've learnt more from disabled people than the other way around, quite obviously. And it's also part of a greater struggle. It's part of, of all sorts of struggles like LGBT rights, black and minority ethnic rights, feminism, working class struggles. And so it's always been a part of that. And I think in the 80s and the 90s particularly, there was that coming together. I think we've lost some of that.
I do.
And I think with a lot of talk of diversity, I think that disability is the one thing that gets forgotten about.
Yes, Jake, I'm going to...
It really does. It really does.
Thank you for that. I'm sorry we haven't got any more time to chat on forever. We could do the Penny and Jake hour, couldn't we? Probably.
We could do the Penny and Jake show.
We could.
Why not? We've got the theatre. We could put the show on right here.
That's a great point to end on, because I absolutely support equality for everybody. And we do need the intersectionality strongly, passionately, because as individuals, we are fluid and we come from different groups and communities, backgrounds. Please, let's all come together. And I've said it on social media and I'll say it again in my wind-up. If you don't have disabled creatives in your event, you're not truly inclusive. But on a happier note, there's lots of signs, ironically, from online work that is starting to move, that we're connecting. So now I've got to wind down and say thank you so much for joining me, and thank you to Jake for interviewing me and chatting. I wish we could do longer. And thank you out there. I gather you're giving me likes and all sorts of things. But please follow me on @PenPep. On Twitter, I'm the Miss Penny Pepper on Instagram. I've just joined TikTok. Penny Pepper Writes, that's hilarious. And I am on Facebook, of course. So please do let me know what you think. And I do hope that next year there'll be more regular Penny on the Telly. Thank you.